And then I figured out the things that I love to do. So really watching women be elevated fuels me. It just fills my cups 100 times over. So I know that the experiences I create, Women for Women Today, fill me up. And because it does, I automatically have positive energy to give to everybody else about it. Mm-hmm. I can shout it from the rooftop. I'm smiling about it. I am passionate about it. And you can feel that in the way that I talk about it. It's about empower, connect, inspire, learn, hashtag every woman. That is what it is. You identify as a woman, then this is for you. For whatever you're looking for. You may want a new career. You may want no career. You may want friends. You may just want someone to spark something in you. Maybe you just need a reset. Whatever it is, you have to love what you're doing.
Welcome to the Confident Mompreneur Podcast, where you can find solid advice along with warm guidance on motherhood, business, relationships, health, wellness, and everything you need to help add to your confidence and zest for life. And with interesting guests from all around the world, you'll hear real and relatable stories with impact and nuggets of wisdom to help you or the mompreneur meet the challenges of life with clarity and success. Now let's welcome your mompreneur host, Carrie Blaney.
Well, welcome on today, TH. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Absolutely. We were just talking beforehand, and it seems like you and I have a lot of things in common. So I'm super excited to hear from you today and kind of get to know you and your journey of what's led you to this moment. So do you want to just start us out by introducing yourself a little bit about who you are, what you do, your family, all the things?
I mean, I could go on for hours about all of that, but I'll start with the obvious. My name is TH. It is only 2 letters. I don't have a great story. My grandmother didn't like either of those names. I apologize for the dogs. Didn't like either of those names. So I'm apologizing to all of you who has a loved one whose names are Tracy or Heather. But I've been called TH my whole life. And if that's too challenging, you're welcome to call me T. So that's what TH is for. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
I can't even hear him. You're fine.
Okay, good. So, I am a mom of 3. I have 2 daughters and a son. They are basically each 20 months apart. When I separated from my husband in 2008, they were 8, 6, and 4. So I had little babies. I'd always had a career. I am a marketing person, strategy. And as I've grown up over the years, I realized that my zone of genius is in engagement, activation. I'm super intentional about my business decisions and my business focus, but that's taken many years to kind of get to where I am and realize what I'm good at. You know, that's a hard thing to figure out. And so through the evolution of all of my careers in my life, I worked in corporate America. I worked for a small business. I worked for a startup. And then I worked for a traditional media company that really helped me figure out what I love to do, which is to create impactful experiences that become lasting memories for those who attend. And that's kind of my journey. I mean, so I was very happily separated in 2008, even more happily divorced in 2012. Don't judge until you've been there. I couldn't find my way out of my marriage, and I wanted to make sure I was always going to be a good mom. And it took me a little while to realize that I'm still a good mom, regardless of my marital status. Mm-hmm. And just kind of evolved into the woman that I am today, many years later. And now instead of being an intrapreneur in a traditional business, I'm an entrepreneur with 2 businesses.
Mm-hmm. What does an intrapreneur mean? Because I'm sure a lot of people haven't heard that term before.
So it's a relatively new term. You know, like when you feel something and you're doing something, and then all of the sudden you hear someone put a stamp on it. They're like, oh, you're an intrapreneur. Oh, there's a name for that. So it's anybody who works within a traditional corporate environment as an entrepreneur. So I was given the opportunity to start an events division for a traditional media company. He wanted a personality for each of his publications. The only way to do that is to get out into the public, to create an experience. So I did that, and many were successful. A few were not successful, but you either win or you learn, right? So I learned. And when I took that position, I was of the mindset that I say yes before I can tell myself no.
Mm.
Do you want to start an events division? Yes. I had 3 kids under 8. I'd never produced large scale anything, but I produced a ton of birthday parties, and I like a good party overall. And I'm super creative, and I'm pretty organized. So I've learned to say yes before no, which is definitely one of my strengths, but also it started as a challenge, right? You don't, and I'm talking about like not about scary things. These are for opportunities that you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do it. Just say yes and you will rise to the occasion. It's amazing how you can rise to that occasion. So an entrepreneur is somebody who is entrepreneurial within a traditional environment.
Well, and that's so cool that you were able to get that opportunity because it provided you with so many of the skills that you use today as an entrepreneur in your own businesses. And that wouldn't have happened if you had said no to that opportunity.
I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today if I said no to that opportunity. I've also learned to work with a lot of different personalities, a lot of different cultures. I am from the Northeast. I spent a good amount of time in Jackson, Mississippi, in Louisville, Kentucky, in Montgomery, Alabama. Everybody has their own perks, twerks, or, it's quirks. Yes. Third time. Right. In each culture and each state has different cultural, norms and stuff that are new to you as a visitor. So, of course, I was respectful of all of them, but I've also really learned how to thrive despite them. Not everybody was receptive to a white Jewish girl coming into that environment who's like a boss. And I was a boss.
I love that.
And so my other thing that I've learned to really adapt as a businesswoman is you really do kill them with kindness.
Mm.
Kill them with kindness. Whether I'm dealing with an attendee at one of my events or I'm dealing with someone in business, you do not want to burn a bridge with anybody ever unless it's a danger.
Mm-hmm.
Because those people tend to pop up in your life.
Wow.
And I have mastered that. I am a good listener. I will do the best I can to accommodate. And I do not have an ego when it comes to talking to people who have any kind of issues with me or what I'm doing or how they're experiencing it. You empathize and you try to resolve.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a really good point to talk about because I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day that's also a business owner, and we were talking that I think today in the age of digital media, people have forgotten the power of like those one-on-one connections and word of mouth. And even when you're traveling and doing events, I found like especially I'm from Wyoming and we always have the saying that Wyoming is just one small town with really long roads because no matter where you go, you always know somebody who knows somebody or like there are always those connections being made. And so those real people to people connections are super important to keep and not burn those bridges like you were saying.
And now with technology and since COVID, we're all connected in very different ways. So before you say something you're going to regret or you can't take back, stop and literally take a breath. There are a lot of people who are going to piss you off, but you need to reset yourself because the way that relationship is going to work out is what you said last.
Yeah.
So you don't want that to come back and haunt you.
Well, and it's so like amazing that like as a business owner, we now have that power and control over our business, but it really takes some of that internal self-work to do as well. And I think it's so interesting because I feel like as you grow a business, you learn so much about yourself too, and you really
Yeah.
have to work on those skills. And I was just talking about this with somebody else the other day, that parenthood also teaches you like patience and sometimes talking down people from,
Right.
big emotions.
De-escalating. Yeah. Yeah.
Just like
Listen,
with our
life,
kids.
life is life. And if you are not faced by challenge, you are not going to grow the same way. So whether it's a screaming child on an airplane where you can't pick up your kid and soothe them and they're locked in a car seat and everyone's giving you like devil eyes and snarky looks, or you're in business with somebody who doesn't like the way you're doing things, especially as an entrepreneur, you are your brand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I can hide behind a big corporate name and piss somebody off, because that's a reflection on them because they dealt with me and I wasn't nice. But when it's your own company,
Mm-hmm.
don't be fooled. The confident mompreneur is you. It's not something else somewhere else. So if you are in your own line of business, you are your brand. So if you want your brand to be well regarded and respected and talked about in the best way possible, you have to come forward with positivity. And not every match is a good match, but you leave it and you say, thank you so much for your time. I heard everything you had to say. And, if it works out, great. And that's it.
Yeah.
And walk away.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, and I think that's something that I really wanted to dig in with you, is kind of getting to know your own power and being able to say yes to the right opportunities as they come along to build your brand in a way that feels really powerful and connected for you. Because I feel like that's something that is really hard for women, is
It
we kind
is.
of get stuck on this like narrow idea of what it is that we want to be doing, and then we say no to opportunities that really may have turned into something great for us over time.
So I would say never be closed-minded. Ever, ever, ever. You are not the genius of everything. You're not. You will have your zone of genius. I have mine and you have yours, but we are not geniuses in everything. So collaborating with other people, whether they are the genius in that or they're educating you a little bit more in that, you're learning what that topic is, but you're also at the same time learning how to not get swindled by somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So for one of my businesses, I have a podcast. It's called Divorce, Etc. We support and educate anyone touched by divorce, because my best friend and I got divorced at the exact same time from our husbands. They were cheating on us, doing all these things. You can hear our whole salacious story in our first episode. But there were no resources, and how lucky were we to have one another through it all. Okay. So then we speak to this woman whose podcast looks unbelievable, and she's a business coach and she can do all these things for us. And what I think, I don't know if it's just women. I think just people who are really eager and are easily distracted by a quick solution, which is definitely a weakness of mine, which is how we ended up even talking to this woman. She had 2 calls with us. And then she began to say, you should be on TV and you need a TV show and you need this and that and the other thing. We're like, yes, 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 yes. Well, that'll only cost you $50,000. And I take Bitcoin and I take credit cards, and you can split it up between multiple credit cards, and I take cash and I take this and that. And I was like, we were really talking about it. I was like, oh my God, she could put us on TV and she can get us speaking engagements, and that'll make our whole business huge. Like, we'll make so much money. And fortunately, we are self-funded. And so there's only so much money. And even if we were funded by somebody else, we would have to have gotten their approval, and they would say, you guys are crazy to listen to this person. So no, you shouldn't go in that direction. So we did not go in that direction. But it takes a lot of willpower to realize, and it takes training to figure out who is your opportunity and who is not.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are not your opportunity. And there's so many great marketing initiatives out there that you're like, oh my God, it's only $20. Oh my God, it's only $19.99 a month. Oh, it's only $49 3 times a year. It's only this, it's only that. Those amounts add up. We tried an app. We were going to do all these things that we put money into that we didn't end up following through with. So what I recommend for anybody is in order to really learn what can work and what can't work, there's a great book called The Lean Startup. Have you read that?
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
So they talk about the minimum viable product. So Jessica and I didn't really follow it, but I did this second time around. You take your concept and you put it out in the world, and it's not going to be perfect, like not even close. But if we had just done our podcast, put it on YouTube, thrown it out there, not worried about production and music and intro and outro and colors and all of that crap, we would have saved a lot of money. Instead, we spent a lot of money on a website, which is not the bread and butter. We spent a lot of money building an app, which isn't the focus. So just make sure that you have your mission statement very clear. And after we were almost swindled by that woman, in addition to my mission statement above my computer, I only do things that make money or get me emails. If it doesn't serve either of those purposes, then I'm not wasting my money on it. And by the way, your time is also your money.
Mm-hmm.
So the Lean Startup is a great book to read because it helps you take out the noise that's going to surround you. You are an easy target. You want to learn, you want to grow. This is going to be awesome. It's going to be the next big thing. And that's great. And you should continue to have that excitement around it. But don't get trapped down a bunch of different rabbit holes and miss your intent with your product. You're also might shift as you go through your new business. So like I said, our focus was we're going to have this website that everybody's going to come to for all of the resources. But what ended up happening is we have 250,000 plays on our show. Everybody goes to the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then they want to hear from us through a newsletter. So the show and the newsletter became the two profitable assets of ours and the highest engagement. Our website's fine. Everybody needs a website of some kind. I didn't have to waste thousands of dollars on which shade of pink. I didn't. And you don't have to either. Don't get caught in the weeds. Like we spent hours making sure our Instagram feed looked great. If you go back to X Experts to our very beginning, it looks gorgeous. Then it's all about content. You'll see me with baseball hats. You'll see me with hoodies. I don't have earrings on. I don't have makeup on sometimes because it's all about the message that you're putting out into the world. Mm-hmm. So just stay really focused on your purpose. And you can go and explore the shiny objects and have the free phone calls and join the free webinars, but make sure that you have a schedule in your week that only allows for maybe 2 hours of that per week. And if you're exceeding it, then it rolls over to another week because it's not bringing you money and it's not bringing you emails.
Yeah. Such a good point, because I do feel like it's kind of hard to find that line between saying yes to opportunities and not getting lost in the weeds of things, especially because there are so many programs and apps and whatever that we can all use in our businesses. But I think the key word that you said there is like following the purpose and the values of whatever it is that you're doing.
Yep.
Instead of being led down those rabbit holes. And I also think that in general, any of those quick fix things are not worth the time and money that are going to go into them, because anything that's worth following is going to take time. It's going to take effort. Yep. And it's just going to be something that happens over the long haul instead of a quick fix.
The big thing with that I had struggled with was I was I was doing a ton of research and a ton of educating myself. Which podcast platform? What name? What's SEO? Do I need Google search? Do I need this? Do I need that? And at a certain
You get
point,
stuck in analysis paralysis.
right. And you have diminishing returns. I cannot literally absorb all of this. So always have a plan for yourself. This week, I'm looking in SEO. That's the only distraction you're allowed for that entire week. And then you can decide, is this something that I want to do myself, or do I want to hire an agency to do this? And we've had two different ones. We had an agency, and then we had another group that really like cleaned up our website so that we had those SEO words, in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know we're not experts in it. And then fine, I'm not an expert in it. Do we have the money? Is it worth the investment for them to do it? And it actually was. It was worth it. But do your research. It's great to also be a part of an accountability group. Jessica and I had each other, plus we had this graphics woman who was basically part of our team. So we made sure that we talked about all of the things. So we have all the perspectives. If it was me, I would still be living in rainbows and unicorns every day, because I think, oh, this is going to work. Oh, this is going to work. Oh, this is going to work. And I needed people to say, you know what, TH, I don't think that's going to work. And the app sounds great because we want community. We want privacy. Not, people don't want to talk about their divorce. But now, how many different places am I asking people to go? My podcast, my website, my newsletter, and now an app.
That's a lot.
So that's right. So if you are working alone as an entrepreneur, I encourage you to join a group of entrepreneurs that meet up at least once a month and bounce ideas off of one another so you can get checked yourself.
Yeah.
It's super easy to get caught up, and you're only human, and it's totally normal. But I'm going to save you thousands of dollars by telling you to talk to other people about it. You don't have to do what they say, but as a check-in for yourself for what your gut is telling you.
Yeah, such a good point. No, I think that's super important. You also brought up like the ability to pivot, which I think is super important, and be able to like shift as kind of life and your focus shifts too. Because especially like as women, I feel like our lives are constantly in flux. Our kids are getting older. We don't have as much time, like priorities are shifting, life experiences come out of nowhere and shift us. How do we take those experiences and allow them to help us grow and shift in our brands too? I mean, a great example of that is you going through a really difficult divorce and then taking that really big hardship in your life and then creating a brand from it that really has that purpose and meaning and value behind it.
So there are a few things. We have pivots in our lives that we can't choose, right? Somebody's sick, you're sick, divorce, death, financial problems that are kind of like holy crap moments where you better pull up your big girl pants and show up. And I know most of us do. There are some of us who cannot. We're paralyzed by it. We don't know how to move forward from it. So I just want to say that up front, everybody pivots every day. And it's interesting because I just produced an event in January, and the title was Permission to Pivot. That was the theme, because that's what I did last year. Last year, I took a chosen pivot. So my chosen pivot was Jessica and I created X Experts and our Divorce Etc. podcast. We invested a good amount of money, and we invested 4 years of our time. But in looking at it, we weren't making money, not enough that was going to support each of us. Mm-hmm. So Jessica went back to her original career, which was in television. And the burden of X Experts really landed on me. I knew she had to go back. I was making money because I also do coach as your girlfriend through your divorce, men and women I support, because your first weekend without your kids sucks. And your first Valentine's Day and your first New Year's Eve. And How do you deal when he's dating somebody new or she's dating somebody new? And what if you have someone new in your life? What do you do about telling the kids? What about dating? How do you flirt? I mean, there's like a million things here. So I do coach people with that, but I am not a lawyer or a financial expert, but I know all the questions that you need to ask those people. So I was making some money that way, which was fine. But to really take a hard look at what we've put our money and time into to grow for 4 years that we thought was going to be as big as that newsletter, The Skim, and then be disappointed that it wasn't, was hard.
Mm-hmm.
And also I was becoming resentful of Jessica because I'm doing all the work.
Yeah.
So that wasn't good for our friendship either. And we're totally open and honest with one another. So I didn't know really what else to do. But when I used to work for the local media company, which was then bought by USA Today, so I scaled one of my events across the country and I stopped all the local experiences. Then Jessica and I started X Experts early 2020, and then COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
So there were no more events. So actually the timing was perfect.
Yeah.
So then a year and a half ago, the city near where I live called me and said, T.H, will you bring back that event you did for us all those years ago? So again, I said yes before no. I created another LLC called T.H Experiences. And I did the Angua Night Market this past summer, and we had over 8,000 people.
Wow.
So it was a success. But in bringing that back, I was thinking, God, I really loved my women's event. My women's event was called Women for Women Today. So why not do that too? I'm now TH Experiences. I can do whatever I want. I don't need to check in with anybody else. And by the way, when I worked as an entrepreneur in that company, I had all the resources. I had design, I had sales, I had finance, I had legal, I had everything. But I was the only person on the events team. I was a team of one.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was thinking about TH Experiences and bringing those experiences back to life, I wasn't really scared because I'd basically done it myself all those years anyway. I did learn how to work really well with other people. So that's also a really important skill you need as an entrepreneur, because you can try to do it all, but you can't do it all. And if you try to do it all, you're not going to do it well. And you're not actually going to do any of it well. So if you stay in your lane and you work with other people, your zone of genius will go even higher. So I brought it back. And to date, I've had 3 Women for Women Today experiences. I have another one coming up in March, which is focused on menopause. It's called Demystify Menopause. It is all of these experiences are in North Jersey, but Demystify Menopause, we will be streaming so everybody can access it digitally.
Cool.
And so I brought all of the events back. So Permission to Pivot, as I was working through these thoughts, I had also, I think my first step before my pivot happened was hiring a business coach, because I didn't have Jessica to talk to, and her mind doesn't work like mine. She's great at production and TV and all of that. I'm great at strategy, marketing, and promotion. And I needed somebody who understood how I think to help me sort through what's good for me and what are the next steps in terms of a career for myself. I knew 100% I was never working for anybody else again. That I knew. So I worked with this business coach. And then last year, I said, you know what? I need joy and money in my life.
Mm-hmm.
X Experts brings me joy. My boyfriend, my kids, my people bring me joy. But I really need money too. And it would be great if the money came with joy also. I want my joy bucket like full. But I want money to be with joy at least 70% of my life.
Yeah.
So the only way to do that was to refresh all of these experiences that I created myself. So I did. And now I have joy and money in the things that I do. This year, 2025, I have 6 experiences planned. And 2026, I have 8 experiences scheduled.
Wow.
So You can't start till you start. You can't change till you can't change. And I literally said out loud, I'm going to give myself permission to pivot. And then the cherry on top was when Hoda left the Today Show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, seriously? Hoda can leave. Hoda and Jenna and the Today Show. I don't even know if her podcast is continuing. She gave herself permission to pivot. Sky's the limit for me.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I can do it. I had already set up the LLC. I'd already done the events, but she was like the last little kick, like TH, effing do it. Like now.
Yeah.
And that was it. I'm like, well, hell, if Hoda can do it, I surely can. I can surely give myself permission because I don't have as much money as she had. And she walked away for reasons that are important to her.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you talk about joy and money going together, because I do feel like sometimes that's a hard thing for women, is the money talk of things, and especially with things that we do enjoy. We're like, well, I already enjoy it. Why do I need to get paid for it too? But really, I mean, look at all
Why not get paid for it?
Exactly.
Why not?
And look at what you get to give to people because they're paying for these experiences too. And I found that people are way more invested in things if they have to pay for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Basically, every one of my events, the food truck mashup, I scaled across the 9 cities. You had to pay to come in the door, and I still had 15 to 20,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
There's skin in the game. You're going to show up. And if you don't show up, I still made money on your ticket. But the ticket price was between $5 and $10 because you go and you spend a lot of money on food and other things. So I was very considerate of that. But why shouldn't I make money at the gate?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, we really found this also in experts. Women are lacking in general. Women in general lack the knowledge of the finances.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my marriage, I used to pay all the bills. I worked, I had a 401k, I had all those things. I also had separate money that I invested. But at a certain point, as part of the manipulation in his affair, he said, you know what, I'll just take care of the bills. You're home with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sure. Yes. I want one less thing I can worry about. You take care of it. So I still had all the passwords. I had access. And when I found out about his affair, I had access to everything. But I chose to look away because it was easier. So we all have different roles in our marriages. So I'm not hard on myself for that at all. But for you women out there who do not have access to your marital finances, happily married or not, God forbid some sickness comes around or death suddenly, you don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we find that 90% of the women who we speak with through experts in divorce, et cetera, are afraid to learn about the money. They're afraid to realize the truth about debt and a whole bunch of other things, but are also sometimes pleasantly surprised. Like, wow, I didn't know he had all that money. Half of that's mine.
Mm-hmm.
And don't shoulda, coulda, woulda yourself as an entrepreneur, as a woman in life. We can't fix the past. Okay. But starting today, you can start learning about the money. You can start valuing your worth. And 100% your time is valuable in terms of dollars and cents.
Mm-hmm.
And as an entrepreneur, when Jessica and I started our business, we were afraid to charge, which is kind of what I told you before we started recording. We wanted to have advertisers on our show. So first we had to prove the concept. So did people sign up for our newsletter because we plugged our own product in the middle? Yes. So now I could go to someone else and say, yes, we had these many people signing up. The return is good, blah, blah, blah. So we picked a number that we worked with a podcast coach who was great. He goes, all right, what number do you pick? So let's say I picked $200. He goes, great. Now triple it. That's your starting price because women undersell ourselves all the time. And then he said, after you have a half a dozen, you have 6 people signing up at that price point, then you increase it 25%. It's always good if you do that mid-year or the beginning of a year.
Mm-hmm.
So you can say our prices are going up in the next 8 weeks. So if you want to join now. Okay. So that's how we could do it. The worst thing that could have happened was we started charging and no one was buying it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can always adjust it and be like, you know what? I was too high. But we got people right off the bat way higher than we were going to start. So you don't know until you put it out there. Just like the lean startup says, just put it out there.
Yeah.
And don't undersell yourself because you're afraid. Fine. No one bought it for $200. It needs to go to $125. Fine. This is how we learn. It's just like selling a house, right? I think my house is worth $300,000. Not if everybody's only offering you $125. It's not. So that's really the mentality that you need to take. Also, if you're starting your own business, work with your accountant and learn from your accountant what things are deductible, how to organize yourself. It is worth it to invest in QuickBooks or some program like that. Trust me, the first year I did not do it. And it was like 4 days of numbers, and I hate numbers like that.
Yeah.
And so why not use the technology to make your life easier instead of taking 4 days out of my life to deal with that? So definitely rely on that. Get close to your accountant, understand the numbers, understand sales tax. In some states, you don't have to charge sales tax on tickets for events. In others, you do. Understand the implications of that. Like, have a real lesson learned. That is 100% required for any entrepreneur, especially women, because that may not have been our role or our career before we started a business, and you don't want to get burned.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely. And I think that's so good that we talk about knowing your finances, whether it's in your business or in your personal. It's super, super important.
Yep.
What tips do you have for somebody who wants to maybe start doing their own events, since you have such a broad knowledge of doing events and hosting different types of events? Because personally, I'm hosting my very first event in like 2.5 weeks. And it is difficult. I have to applaud you for doing it constantly because there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah. So I would say that I call them experiences. I don't call them events anymore. Event in my mind is something you put on your calendar. It's your doctor's appointment. It's your kid's checkup. You got to pay for the dog's, license. Like, it's a thing you have to do.
Yeah.
I create experiences that are impactful and become awesome memories for you in the future. They are intentionally set up that way. So if you're going to create an experience for yourself, right? It's for me first. I have to love what I'm building. I am not hired to create seminars. I'm not doing birthday parties. I'm not doing weddings. I know, don't even come by me. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I also don't want to do a street fair, a health fair, because they're very fair and predictable, and I don't want to be predictable. So I figured out the things that I don't want to do. And then I figured out the things that I love to do. So really watching women be elevated fuels me. It just fills my cups 100 times over. So I know that the experiences I create, Women for Women Today, fill me up. And because it does, I automatically have positive energy to give to everybody else about it. Mm-hmm. I can shout it from the rooftop. I'm smiling about it. I am passionate about it. And you can feel that in the way that I talk about it. It's about empower, connect, inspire, learn. #everywoman. That is what it is. You identify as a woman, then this is for you. Mm-hmm. For whatever you're looking for. You may want a new career. You may want no career. You may want friends. You may just want someone to spark something in you. Maybe you just need a reset, whatever it is, you have to love what you're doing. So that's the number one thing if you're looking to start an experience. You have to have wanted it for yourself, and then you're going to build it in a way that if you were attending, you would want all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have done that sometimes, and it hasn't done so well. I did that with a fitness. It was called Fit for Health. And I had like 40 different fitness businesses there. I had live classes going on. If I had done that today, it would have been better attended, but I was like ahead of the game back, I don't know, 8 years ago, dreaming that up. So sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. Do it passionately, check your numbers, make sure that if you get this title sponsor, that you are not out of pocket. You want to make sure you at least break even on your first experience.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that's covered. Also, align with a media outlet. A media outlet will give you ads, potentially editorial, and you can say that they're your media sponsor, which already elevates you.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely try to build a media relationship because that already adds, it validates what you're doing.
Yeah.
I would also barter for your first one because it's a chance. And if everything goes great, then you know what? Next year you're charging them and they'll pay because they saw how awesome it was. My event in January did so well that 3 of those businesses are sponsoring all of my events for the rest of the year.
Wow. That's great.
So, and look, I have produced, like I said, more than 50 over the last 10 years, but the audience today is different than they were 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They don't wait 3 hours for a food truck anymore. They don't enjoy it. It's not fun. The food trucks don't bring the same kind of attention because they're on every corner now.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to create the same experience with different elements. So those are the big things that if you're starting an in-person experience, have your passion, know your money, and use the relationships you have. If you're doing a gift bag, then barter with them. Don't charge them because you want your gift bag to look amazing. They'll be like, oh my God, this was great. And then you can charge going forward.
Yeah. So great. I think those are 3 really great points to make. And
I have one
definitely
more. I'm sorry, Kyrie. I have one
No,
more.
you're good. Go ahead.
Always align with a nonprofit.
Mm.
They will give you the attention. They will promote you. It's also great community give back. I always have a nonprofit partner at every single one of my experiences. I do give them a voice at the event because I want people to hear about the amazing stuff they do. And it has to be tied to you somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So I have Susan G. Komen is coming up for my Demystify Menopause event. And I'm a breast cancer survivor as well as my mother. And the YWCA educates women for free. I love that. Teach us everything we don't know. It's okay if you don't know it, but it's not okay if you don't step up to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely align with a nonprofit that's aligned with you and your passion.
Yeah, definitely. I started my own nonprofit. That was like my first business that I ever did.
That's amazing.
Nonprofit is a big component for me, and anything that I do is trying to find and align with some nonprofit around whatever the topic is for what I'm doing. So I love it. It's community. It's also really great marketing because people love when you're aligned with a nonprofit or doing some sort of a give back. People are way more prone to come and give lots of money.
Yeah.
No, really great.
The other thing that I've learned to do in my in-person experiences is to put myself in the spotlight. So along the same vein as not wanting to learn about the money, you know, it's easier if somebody else worries about the money, and putting everybody else in front of you, you're the brand. So step into your spotlight, moderate the panel, do a welcome introduction, rally the troops, Take videos and put it up to promote your event of you speaking to your audience. When I used to do this women's event for the media company, nobody ever saw me. I put the editor up. I put all my speakers up. I didn't even have a picture of myself in the lineup. Now I am the first picture in the lineup because I built it. And I do the welcome. And I am moderating the panel. And it takes practice to do it perfectly. So don't worry. Only use index cards. Don't use paper. Only use bullet points. Don't write sentences. And number your index cards in big font so you know what's next.
Yeah.
But practice in front of a mirror, practice on Zoom, record yourself speaking out at an audience, and make sure that your light is shining bright at your brand and your business. So I want to make sure, Kyrie, that you do that at your upcoming event. Everybody knows this was produced by the Confident Mompreneur, and who you are and why you're here and why this event experience is so important to you, that you spent all this time building it. And now here, we hope you all enjoy it. And at the end of your experience, leave feedback forms for people. They're more likely to fill it out on the way out than if you email them afterwards. They will answer 4 questions max, but include yourself in that feedback form. And the other thing you should always include in a feedback form is the statement, I feel ... Because then you reuse that for your next one. People who came to my Women for Women Today event felt invigorated. They could do anything, empowered, strong, happy, joyful. You want to know how they're feeling when they're walking out the door. Yeah. So keep yourself in the spotlight and don't be afraid of feedback. That's how we all get better.
No, good tips. And definitely some things that I've thought about as I'm working on this. I have already kind of come up with my little introduction speech. I got bios from each of my speakers that I'm going to introduce them with their bios before I bring them on. And then I have like a PowerPoint that I'm going to put up. And at the end, it says brought to you by the Confident Mompreneur, and then the links to all of my things. So I feel like done a fairly good job of, doing some self-promotion within it. So.
Absolutely. It sounds great. And I can't wait to hear all about it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, this has been such an awesome talk. I know we kind of grazed over a lot of different topics today, but you have a few different places where people can come and find you and kind of dig more into all of these topics with you. Can you point those out to us and let us know where to find you, what you've got going on? I know we mentioned a few things, but give us the rundown.
Absolutely. So if you are anywhere in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, I encourage you to come to one of my experiences. I do big festivals. I do women's focused events. I do intentional learning experiences. And I am planning my first retreat for the end of April in northern New Jersey. Awesome. So if you are in this area, go to th-experiences.com. All of those live on that website. If you are touched by divorce or a family member, we all know somebody who is struggling. Do the best you can to be a great listener for them. But at the end of the day, you don't know what it's like to be in their shoes, but we do. We've lived it, so we get it. So please direct them to xexperts, exexperts.com, and invite them to listen to our Divorce ETC podcast. But you can find all of the information and resources for Experts there. You can listen to our salacious story. It'll make you feel better about your own story. And if you're looking for support, you can click there for direct coaching from me. And if you are looking to build your marketing around in-person engagement, I am also available for that. I've done my fair share. I love leveraging my monkey brain for somebody else other than myself. So take advantage of it. And you can email me at thexperiences.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. This has been great. Thanks so much, TH.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mompreneur Podcast. And if you like this episode as much as we did, give us a follow so we can invite you back every Wednesday. And of course, share it on all your socials. Being a confident mompreneur means uncovering your strengths and struggles so you can dive in and learn how your next steps could be your greatest.